We continue our Nightmare Fuel series for 31 Days of Halloween on the Pop 5, delving into some of the genre's scariest characters or creatures.
Look at me. I'm burning.
That we are glad for having seen at least once, so we know when to turn away from the screen upon repeat viewings. And sure, while the likes of Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, and Pennywise comes to mind when we think of horror antagonists who give us nightmares, they are far more tame than some of the supporting characters or creatures that we have seen on film. Here are 5 Nightmare Fuel horror movie characters that you may not,
or probably,
agree with.
Number 5. The Siberian Huskies from The Thing. The unwritten rule in horror is that you can kill men, women, children, even babies. Just don't kill the dog. Unfortunately for us, John Carpenter doesn't care about this rule, as not only did he kill a dog in Halloween, but he took it to another level in his masterpiece, The Thing. After The Thing infiltrates the camp and is brought to the pen, we can't help to feel the tension quickly begin to mount as it slowly walks into the pen and just lays down, staring ahead. What we get next is 5 minutes of sheer nightmare fuel, as the other dogs soon sense the danger they are in before the Thing reveals itself and begins to transform, and within an instant, the dogs go from being on the offensive to howling in terror. Seeing the one dog try to bite through the fence is terrifying, and the horror is only elevated even further when the Thing begins to strike and latch onto dogs in the pen so that it can consume them into its form. The reveal of the Thing has to be one of the best, if not scariest, reveals of all time that has yet to be matched and still holds up to this day. Number 4.
Mason Verger, Hannibal. As the sheer curtains were pulled back from around his bed, we can just make out Mason's disfigured face within the shadows. As Clarice moves in to attach a microphone to his shirt, Mason turns on the light that illuminates his scarred and deformed face. Remnants from Hannibal Lecter convincing him in a drug-induced trip to cut off his face and feed it to the dogs. And while Clarice didn't flinch at the sight of him, many viewers struggled to keep from throwing up at the sight of his mutilated face and goopy eyeball moving about. Now, while his appearance is horrific, it is also satisfying as we learn that Mason Verger was a sadistic pedophile who flavored his martinis with the tears of his victims.
Number 3. Reverend Henry Kane, Poltergeist 2. While the first Poltergeist was the most frightening of the trilogy, the nightmares didn't begin for kids in the 1980s until Reverend Kane appears in a vision to Diane with a sinister grin as he holds kids captive in a cave while singing and waving his arms over them. The Reverend would eventually find Carol Ann on the street, where he kneels down to talk to her.
Hi.
Are you lost, sweetheart? Are you afraid, honey?
In the 80s, it was drilled into your head that there were 2 things to fear: quicksand and kidnappers. And here, Poltergeist 2 painted a haunting portrait of a kidnapper. You can see the evil in the Reverend's eyes, which were sunken into dark, shadowy circles, further accentuated by the wrinkles that splintered out from his eye sockets. And that smile was haunting. No one exuded true evil as Reverend Kane did.
Allow me to introduce myself, Henry Kane.
Number 2.
Big Brain, The Hills Have Eyes. After the Carters break down while driving through the desert, they come under attack by mutants who live in the hills, who rape and kill members of the family before stealing baby Catherine. Doug, husband of Brenda Carter, who was raped, discovers that his daughter is missing and he sets out to find her. In his pursuit, he finds himself in an abandoned village. He enters a house after he hears the sound of a baby crying, where he soon finds Catherine. Only he is discovered by one of the mutants who knock him out and places him in a freezer full of body parts without his daughter. Doug manages to escape and begins to sneak through the house when he hears a raspy voice singing the Star-Spangled Banner.
And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air.
There in one room he finds an immobile, hideous, pale, fleshy man lying draped over a chair, his throat and his head engorged, who is only able to move his eyes and his mouth, making him that much more terrifying. But while Big Brain seems harmless, he's actually quite devious and distracts Doug long enough for other mutants to arrive. And as Doug fights them off, and unlike our first entry on this list, Doug's dog Beast exacts some revenge by killing Big Brain.
Number 1. Zelda, Pet Cemetery. It was 1989, and by this time, fans had survived 5 Nightmare on Elm Streets, 8 Friday the 13th, and 5 Halloween movies. No one would have expected that a supporting character in Pet Sematary would break even the most hardened of horror fans. As we would soon learn why Rachel Crosby was haunted as an adult by memories of her sister Zelda, who was born with spinal meningitis and who relied on her family, including her younger sister, to care for her. Still considered to be one of the scariest scenes in a horror film, we see a disfigured Zelda writhe in pain as she lay in bed, her body contorting violently as she choked to death during one of her meals. If that visual hell wasn't enough, Zelda would return later in the film to torment our other senses and Rachel as she ran towards her in Judd's house, screaming, "Never get out of bed again."
I'm going to twist your back like mine, so you'll never get out of bed again. Never get out of bed again. Never get out of bed again.
That "never get out of bed again," I can hear it now, and I haven't watched it in quite some time, but it's so haunting.
It was the voice, too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can hear it, and I haven't watched it in a while either, so...
Yeah. I know you can hear it because I just played a clip of it. But oh boy, yeah. Welcome back to another episode of the Pop 5 during the 31 days of Halloween. And do you agree with this list? Are there any characters or creatures that we left off? Let us know by dropping that in the comments. Now, The Thing or American Werewolf in London are one of the 2 movies that I've seen first ever in my lifetime. I was in kindergarten, maybe first grade. I was very young. Back then, Sunday, they played these type of horror movies on TV. It wasn't like it is now where everything's like, oh my god, we don't want to offend somebody. No, Sunday afternoon, network TV, there was matinees and they played these movies. So I remember as a kid that Siberian Husky scene very vividly, and then from American Werewolf in London, I remember the end, and of course I remember the shower scene. But that was me as a little kid, so I don't know which one came first.
Okay.
But that Siberian Husky scene is wow.
When I do watch that movie, I tend to cover my eyes during that scene and I cover my ear. I plug my ears too, like I'm a little kid. I can't deal with the shrieking of the dogs in pain. I can't.
Yeah, it's just seeing the dogs trying to rip themselves out of the crate. Oh my god, it's just so terrifying.
Because tearing that mesh apart and cutting themselves is easier than they'd rather do that than have to deal with what's actually in the cage with them. So, yeah, nope, can't do it.
No, not at all. Mason Verger, his face is, it's effed up. I can see why people are like, yep, I watched that movie once, I saw his face, never ever watch it again.
Yeah, that didn't really get to me, But I watch, I watch shows that show like real life, like actual surgeries and things like that. And he's always like, why are you watching this?
I can watch it if it's in a movie. I can't watch if it's in real life. It's two different things. One I know is fake, one I know is real.
And it's funny because I'm like the opposite, really. I watch all that real life stuff, and then in a movie, I'm just like, is it over yet?
Yeah. My God, thank God you got through Terrifier 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm hardening up a little.
About damn
Getting a
time.
thicker skin. Stuff's not bothering me as much.
Yeah, Mason Verger, he deserved everything he got.
Oh, he absolutely did. When I saw where they show like the flashback scene as to how his face got like that, I was like, yeah, good for you.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah, you kind of root for him to do that to himself.
Yeah, absolutely. He was disgusting. He was a pedophile, and not even just a pedophile, but he like tortured these kids too. So, yeah, no, he deserved to cut his own face off, which I think, by the way, is just pure genius.
This was played by Gary Oldman, and my God, Gary Oldman is simply amazing. I don't think he gets enough due for what he does for a role. Changes his look, he changes his voice. He is just brilliant.
I had no idea it was him, and there have been many, many movies that I've seen him in, and we're looking up like the cast, and we're like, oh shit, that was Gary Oldman. Like, you don't even know, because his look just changes so quickly and easily.
Yeah, now our top three are definitely top three. So Reverend Cain, I remember watching that on WPIX and Channel 11 when I was a kid, and seeing him walk on the screen. It's like, nope, he is creepy.
Yeah, I remember after I saw him, I used to just call him like the tall man, because he was so freaking tall. And, I mean, I'm short now, so imagine me when I was like, I was very short. But I remember going out to like shopping centers and stuff after I saw that movie, and I would be like looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see this Reverend Cain like pop up around the corner or something. Yeah, terrified me.
The one scene that always kind of stuck out to me is like when he's walking up to the house and then comes up to the screen and they start scratching the screen. That, yeah, definitely. Very scary character, amazing character in the film. And then that brings us over to Big Brain in The Hills Have Eyes, which is the newest on the list. And he is just disgusting. Ugh.
Yeah, he's just like one of those things I can't even look at because he's just gross. Like he's, obviously none of these, whatever they are, shower. And so he's just like sweaty and dirty, and he's deformed like beyond anything I've ever seen.
Now, people have tumors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make them that they're hideous and ugly. But you can tell from his character and the way he
Well, but they're like inbred.
Well, but people are inbred. That's not their fault. Anyway.
I know that.
but what I'm saying is the way the actor, and I don't know the actor's name, delivered the character, the vileness came through that character too. That's what just elevated his
He seemed to enjoy being that character.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and he seemed like one of those creepy perverts that would just enjoy watching people do things, whether it's sex or killing other people. It just seems like he would get off on that.
That's the vibe that I get, and I think part of it is because that he can't do anything about it. That's why he watches it.
Yep.
I mean, that's how he gets his pleasure, and I mean, he can't even like pleasure himself, right? Because he can't even move. So it's like, he's just gross.
Yep. And then, of course, Zelda. Zelda is just pure nightmare fuel for everybody that's seen Pet Sematary ever since that movie came out. The way she talks, the way she lies on the bed, and then when she turns her head in that one scene, it's just like the neck is all just like weird. It's like, oh my God. No, why'd you do that?
And there was a lot of fucked up stuff that happened in that movie, but she was by far the creepiest thing in that movie.
Yes. All of these movies, watching those scenes years later, it's still tough to watch those scenes just because of these characters and what they brought to those films. Sometimes it almost overshadows those films. And the one thing that stands out against everything else, all practical effects.
Yeah.
No CGI, right?
Imagine that. You know what I think is funny though, out of like with this list, is that, you know, he wanted to give us like a refresher. So he had me watch the clip on all of these characters except Zelda. He's like, I don't think we need to watch a clip, right? We all know Zelda.
No, if anything, like, I don't know if it's that scene or the scene where Gage gets hit by a truck that kind of makes me not want to watch it that often. But both, yeah, wow. Now, they are making a prequel, but I got to end with this question. Is Judd in on it? This is something that we talked about a long time ago on Women of Horror, but is Judd the harvester of souls? Is he intentionally setting up people's like, oh, there's a pet cemetery over there, don't go over there? I think so. Let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, there's definitely something off about Judd. I think he's a nice guy. I do. I think he's a nice guy.
He's the bad
But he's very creepy. He's very creepy. So I think he's up to something, especially because look at the damn hike they had to go on for this cemetery. And it's like, how the hell do you even know it's there? Like, come on. Like, you went climbing over all that shit, and how the hell are you doing that at your age? Is it because you're feeding them and they're keeping you alive? Yeah.
Stephen King adaptations are another one. They're really either really good or they're really bad.
Yeah.
And some are in the middle. But yeah, I don't have high hopes for that one.
No, I don't either.
Anyway, don't forget to do a couple of things. So we do appreciate you for taking the time out to watch this episode of Pop 5 and the other things that we have going on the channel. But we're essentially like a small business. And if you ever seen those commercials for Small Business Saturday that's coming up next month and how you can support small businesses, you don't even have to buy anything. All you have to do is like and drop a comment and maybe even share the video if you have a couple of extra sections.
Why did you take my line?
Oh,
Got carried away?
I did. Well, I already said it.
Yeah, so just do what he said.
Yeah, just do all that
And
stuff.
subscribe, because that's the only thing he left for me to say.
Yeah. And don't worry about notifications.
Nah, I don't.
Yeah, because we're always going to be there in your subscription library, so you can catch up at any time.
Yes.
Anyway, until the next Pop 5.
See ya.
ya.